Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to a review that is long overdue. So the first thing I ought to do is send an apology to Rogue Horology. They sent me these watches months ago. I shouldn't have sat on them though because it's really pretty good and I think it is pretty good value. These are $249 direct from the Rogue Horology website, including shipping anywhere in the world. I will of course leave a link to that in the description of the video. Now, when did you last hear of a brand launching their first model for less than 250 bucks? It used to seem to me anyway that $299 was the kind of launch price. These days it seems that $399 is the new $299. But I digress. You saw the pop-up, I'm sure. This video is sponsored by Rogue Horology. I should have known that I was going to like this one because they are a cousin brand of Feynman. I like the two Feynmans that I bought earlier on this year, and it's the same designer who designs these new Type 1s by Rogue Horology. They have, however, sent me 6 of them, so we have plenty to get through today. Let's flip the camera and do just that. Yes, indeed, 6 different versions of this watch, 6 different colours. I'm going to show you all of them. They're all basically the same watch though, so I don't have to spend too much time. One key difference though is the lume. There's actually 3 different lume varietals across the range here. There's colour differences with the hands, the indices, and there are some that I like more than others. I will show you them stacked in order of preference a bit later, my personal preference, but this is just random. So yeah, lots to get through, no hanging around today. One place I'm not going to be hanging around too long is talking about the packaging. A very basic cardboard box. I'm not going to give them a hard time for that though, because chances are it's just going to end up in the back of a cupboard anyway. And what do you think of that version? Perhaps unsurprisingly, I've got form here. I have gone straight for the 14 version. I think this is arguably the most resolved of the designs, though I have to say there are another 3 or 4 of them that I think look really, really good as well. The watch this Rogue Horology Type 1 reminds me most of is that awful Orient Super King that I savaged towards the beginning of 2021. It's very similar in terms of the kind of 70s style case, but I think what they've done here is they haven't gone ridiculously retro. They've really modernized it in terms of the dial and the handset and the overall look of the watch. I think it's nicely wearable in terms of size as well. They call it a 41. I measure it at pretty much bang on 40 across the diagonal. Tiny little crown guards there. Maybe they got 41 by measuring it across those. 13.7mm thick though, and 47 lug to lug. Now that thickness, I will come back to that a bit later on. 20mm lug width. There's a bit of a taper down to 17.5, back up to 19.5 at the clasp. Sized up for me, 7-inch wrist, 155 grams. So pretty much exactly where you would expect a 40mm 200 meter dive watch to weigh in. So 200 meters, screw down crown helping with that. All stainless steel construction, stainless steel case, 120 click stainless steel bezel. I'll show you that in a second or two. And a stainless steel, well, it's not really a beads of rice. It looks like a beads of rice, but those mid links are actually just single mid links. There we are. I'll just show you with the 3 links I've removed. So 3 links removed for a 7-inch wrist. That means there's about potential for up to an 8-inch wrist. If I show you the back, yeah, those 5 links are actually just etched. It does have screw links though, so it was nice and easy to size. The case finish is very, very nice. I'll show you the flip side first. Super smooth there on the mid case with that knurled bezel, knurled crown as well. There is a little bit of high polish, just a chamfered edge here and there. Now those crown guards are somewhat notional. I guess they're more aesthetic than functional. Very small crown. I will come back to that later on. It's actually still quite usable though because it's knurled, and it does have the Rogue Horology stylized R etched into it as well. I've shown you the bracelet, but I should show you the female end links, which definitely helps this one wear well. 47mm lug to lug is not particularly large. Clasp is okay, you know, it's not particularly special, but it is only a $250 watch. Pressed upper, milled lower, fold over, no security pushers though, and 4 holes of micro adjust, which is plenty. These links are actually quite slim and not huge distances between them. Now the bezel, before I twist it, let's have a look at the bezel in profile. I think there is a really nice profile of the bezel. You can see there a little high polished chamfered edge that comes into its own outside, and an angled aluminium bezel insert, flat sapphire crystal with a decent bit of anti-reflective undercoating on there as well. Not a huge depth of bezel though, this one knurled much like the crown, meaning great action. That is Very satisfying. But you do have to be quite precise with the grip because it not the deepest there. The fact that it's knurled though kind of compensates for that. Similar to the crown, it's not the biggest crown, but again the knurling really helps out with the action. Case back, screw on, stainless steel and etched with the stylized R that is the Rogue Horology logo. That features on the dial, it also features on the fold over clasp of the bracelet as well. Small batch production timepieces. I quite like that. I guess they're making excuses for not selling 100,000 of the things. NH35 caliber and 200 meters of water resistance as mentioned. And there we are. Not a bad set of numbers from the ever faithful, ever reliable Seiko NH35. 24 dual hacking and hand winding bi-directional winding auto. Really, this is going to be the default choice in the vast majority of micro brands that you're looking at between say 180 and 380 US dollars these days. Alright, let's get all 6 of these watches outside and have a look at them under macro lens. 3 at a time though, because I simply couldn't fit all 6 of them in the one shot. Now, what do you notice first of all? Arguably, the thing you notice first of all is that bicoloured bezel. Very interesting, aluminium as I said. I haven't seen that done before. I think it looks good and I think it will patina nicely with time and age as well. What you also notice there though is it does vary considerably depending on the light. The light is coming from the left of shot here, so that inner ring is far more noticeable than on the right of the shot, for example. You also notice considerable differences in the hand and dial colours obviously across these watches. The 1400 one on the left there has silver hands and silver indices. The 2 other watches have black hour and minute hands and silver surrounds to those indices. The 2 with the black hands though have white second hands. And here's the next 3, and we have differences across those bezel inserts. Again, more pronounced that bicoloration on some than on others. Now the black one there is probably the most sensible of the 6 different versions that I've got. That one has silver hands, silver surrounds to those indices as well. The one in the middle, the white dial, is actually a full lume dial and the lume is really good. I'll show you that in just a minute or two. Black hour hand, black minute hand, but it does have a silver second hand. You notice there silver surrounds to those indices, but they are blacker than night. And on the right, arguably the most colourful of them, it's a teal one, again with a 2-tone bezel insert, teal sunburst on the dial, and black hour and minute hand, silver indices, but we have an orange second hand here, the only kind of coloured second hand in the group. Regardless of colour variant, all of those indices are applied, and they are quite large indices. Again, that pays dividends when I show you the lume video in just a minute or two. Printed minute track around the outer edge, the Rogue Horology R, that stylized R again in white on this 1400 model, just sitting above the pinion, and it's almost like a sector dial as a kind of crosshairs they've printed on there as well. Just type 1 and 200 meter printed above that index at 6. I like the design overall, perhaps not massively characterful, but I think it looks particularly good on this 14er. I think tonally this one they've got spot on. And if we go in super close, you can't see the sunburst. All of the dials have a sunburst effect to them, but you can see a really nice brushed texture to the hands and to those indices as well. I think it looks particularly good with this one because it does have the 14er fill on the hands and the indices. It's supposed to look old, and I think that kind of brushed effect really helps with that. Okay, on to the lume then, and as well as small variations between the indices and the handsets, really the biggest difference across the different colorways is the lume. 3 different distinct lume styles on display here. That's the 14er one on the left. I assume that's C3 old radium style. It's got that kind of deeper green glow that you always get from C3, going with the overall vintage look. Obviously, it's the full lume dial in the middle, and they've gone lume on lume. They've actually lumed the hands as well, not just relying purely on the negative effect. BGW9 and plenty of it everywhere there, and more BGW9 on the model on the right. All of the other colorways have the same level of lume. Let's crank the speed up though, and you can see how these ones get on over the course of my 20-minute test period, which I always reckon is about 4 to 5 hours of human eye equivalent. We're getting close to the end. You would expect the C3 old radium style on the left to fade first, and indeed it does, but it's still doing okay. The other 2 doing very, very well indeed. Very, very impressive for a watch at less than $250. I'm going to throw one of these into a lume war soon. I reckon it'll do okay for itself there. That's it on wrist. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. Certainly wears nicely on me in terms of the overall lug to lug length, helped by that mid-link, the kind of female mid-link of that full beads of rice bracelet there. Not a particularly bulky clasp, which is good. It doesn't kind of interfere with you when you're wearing it, but it doesn't balance out the slightly large head of the watch as well as a slightly chunkier clasp might have done. One thing worth noting though, the bracelet is all well and good, but if you have an extensive collection of 20mm straps, this watch is going to eat them for breakfast because very minimal gap there. Designed that way, designed that it would be really good looking on straps. It almost looks kind of integrated there. Really suits this Tropic though because of the retro dial obviously. And similarly, this cross-stitch vintage Horology number looks so good on this colorway as well. Obviously, if you're going for the yellow or the teal or something, you're going to have to color match the straps. This wouldn't work. Overhead legibility, not too bad at all. Those silver hands, silver indices against the black dial. And it's a reasonable sized watch, I think. Outside natural light, now I hinted at this early on, all those little high polished surfaces, the chamfered edge of the bezel, the chamfered edges to the case, and those middle links of the faux beads of rice bracelet actually look really good together. And there is just about enough anti-reflective undercoating on the sapphire that you get a nice clean read of the dial under most circumstances. On wrist, nice and comfortable, 155 grams for a 40mm 200-meter dive watch is spot on. But looking down the wrist, that case is super straight, 70s style, no curvature at all. Little bit of downturn to the lugs, but you can see when I move my wrist around, it does bobble. It is a little bit top heavy. Which segues me neatly into the moans and niggle section. There are a couple of kind of minors that I've intimated earlier on. Small crown. I think visually it's just a bit too small for the case for the size of the watch. Functionally though, because it's knurled and because those crown guards are somewhat notional, it's actually still perfectly usable, but it's less than 5mm. I think a 6mm crown would have been more appropriate for a 40mm diameter watch. And NH35, no date, that means you do get a ghost date position. Not a deal breaker, but definitely something worth noting. Also worth noting, it only comes with a 1-year warranty. I think 2 years should be standard across Micro World, and I call a 1-year warranty out every time I come across one. And then there's the colours. I think some of them are more successful than others. Here they are stacked in my order of personal preference. If you disagree with me, leave me a comment, let me know which is your favourite. I think the Fotina looks stunning. I think it really melds in with the overall design and tonally it's perfect. That two-coloured bezel really suits the Fotina one as well. The yellow, black hands on yellow, I think that looks great. Lume dial comes somewhere in the middle. You know I love lume on watches and this is very good lume for a $250 watch. I can't help but think though it would have looked better had they put the blacker of the bezels on that one. I'm not quite sure that bezel, the bicolour bezel really goes. Black's the safe bet. Teal looks okay actually, not convinced by the copper dial one down the end. That doesn't really work for me. And my last complaint, as intimated, it does wear very flat, a little bit top heavy and quite bobbly as a consequence. No conformity, no curvature to the wrist, not from one of these 70s style cases. Now that's going to depend on you, how you wear your watches. If you wear them loose, you're going to be okay with that. If you prefer a more secure fit from your watches, maybe this isn't the one for you. But overall, I think an impressive debut from the brand. They set out to create a kind of rugged, affordable watch, and by and large, I think they've done that. Original design from a brand new brand for less than $250. Yeah, this one should be definitely on your shopping list if you're looking for a watch at around this price. You're not short of options though. Obviously, AliExpress, San Martin, you get materially perhaps more for your money, but with no originality. If you want an Orient Komatsu or something, if you want that big brand, you're getting the big brand, but you're not getting a watch that is anything like as well put together as this one. Not an entirely moan-free review then, but if the design resonates with you, I can certainly see compelling reasons to go rogue. So there you have it. Well done for making it to the back end of the video. I assume therefore that you're fairly interested in this type of watch, something coming in between $200 and $250. Why don't you check out the San Martin vintage style, one of my favourite Ali watches for the price, or the Orient Komatsu, the big brand dive watch leader that I referenced in the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.